Welcome to the Cluttered Corner. I'm Chelsea. Today is day 12 of Inktober, and we are doing the word remote. So that made me think of remote control. I know because the theme is travel, it seems to be anyway. They probably mean a remote location. So I'm not really sure what I want to draw for that. Okay, no. I can't use the TWSBI. I really gotta clean it. I know I say that every time, but I really do. I really do have to. Because it's not gonna work. Here's the remote. It's like a remote control. And let's draw. Go put some buttons on here. That's a big power button. And some little buttons here. Yeah. That's a remote. And here is a location. Yeah, that the remote is like opening. It's like opening these doors. And back here is like a jungle. A remote sort of location. Put little vines hanging off these trees. It's beautiful. Maybe it's more of a swamp, actually. Whatever, it's a remote swamp. And let's draw some, yeah, some remote control lines there. Because that's, you know, that's making this happen. Now, I don't know what this would be sitting on, or let's put it on a pedestal. A special pedestal for when you want to open up this remote location. And here, well, the angle's a little bit weird, but we'll say the sensor is like up here. The sensor can be up high, that's fine. Maybe this is surrounded by water, actually. And this is in some, like, dungeon. And you get to the dungeon, and you have to fight your way up, and you get here, and you're like, wait, this is what it is? Like some Indiana Jones kind of stuff, but then you get up here, and it's a remote control, and you're like, what? Who's replacing the batteries in this? And then you press it, and then the wall opens up into a magical land. A faraway magical land. Now, this feels a bit empty to me, but I'm not sure what to put there. Let's put, it looks like a painting or something. Just a decoration on the wall. Because even people in, like, you know, a crazy dungeon place like this, they're going to want to decorate the wall. Because they have to look at it sometimes when they're here. And also, they don't want it to be too obvious that there's, like, you know, special magic wall going on. Oh, wait, actually, I want to put a little bit of an edge here and, like, some column thing there. And this could have some more decoration to it, but I kind of want to leave it plain so that the remote stands out. Because I don't feel confident about putting that in a way where the remote would, like, have, I don't know, fanciness here, but that the remote would still, like, stand out from it. It would probably be fine, but I'm not sure. And I'm looking at the time, and it's not even 4 minutes to draw this picture. Drawing a picture can be so fast sometimes. It's crazy, but painting takes a while sometimes. Well, you know, it doesn't have to, but, you know, I feel like I do a medium amount of painting. Some people could probably paint and make this take hours. And sometimes I do a picture, like, of this size. You know, if I'm doing a reference picture and I'm making it really detailed, sometimes that will take me some time. But something like this, you know, it doesn't take that much time. But drawing it is just so much faster that, I don't know, it's just weird. Okay, now I want a gray pedestal. And I'm going to try and make it a light colored gray pedestal. But we'll see if that happens. You kind of got to start with like I don't know if it has to start with a dark color, but it's going to start with a dark color, and then I'm going to just dilute it. Now, when I first started out with watercolor, I had a lot of trouble with that, with like knowing how much to dilute it. And I guess I wouldn't say I like have it down, but I'm getting there. Actually, maybe I do kind of have it down, but I think there's still room to learn it. But compared to how it was when I started, then yeah, I would say I have it down. Sometimes, I don't know, it's hard to know. And like people talk about water control and that's a thing you have to, really learn with watercolor. And at first I had a lot of trouble with that. But I think part of it is just like a lot of that depends also on like the brushes that you're using, because it depends on how much they'll hold, and some of them they hold a lot more and some hold, very little. And so depending on what kind of brush you're used to working with, that's going to change how you approach that. So like this brush holds a lot of water. And when I first started using this brush, even though it wasn't even that long ago, I was I don't know, I don't want to say like fairly experienced, I guess. I actually haven't been watercoloring that long. It's been like over a year and a half, but not 2 years. Yeah, maybe about a year and a half. Anyway, when I started using this brush a few months ago, I loved it, but it was also like clearly a lot more water than I was used to, and I struggled with that. But I don't know, I've been practicing with it, mostly during this month actually, in these videos, and now it's becoming easier. So generally I prefer, I don't know, I would say it's easier for me to work with brushes that aren't too, they don't hold too much, but at the same time it gets really old when like you have to, add stuff to your brush every 2 seconds. So you gotta find something that is kind of in the middle, or just learn how to use it, I guess. I'm trying to make this remote control black. I really like how this accidentally went here and like made a shadow there. I don't want to destroy it, but the edge of this remote control is not a white. That would be weird, and then you'd be like, why is it like that? And I'm like, well, just so I could keep that shadow. No. Nope. Okay. Yeah, that looks pretty good, I think. I'm going to make this like a big red button. I would have liked to have put more colors in for more like detailed buttons, but I just didn't really feel like drawing that many buttons. So I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna try not to make it too bright red because I don't want it to look ridiculous, but it might anyway. And theoretically I should have let this dry first, but whatever. Trying to think, what have I been doing lately? Mostly this. Yesterday I wrote for the first time in a long time. I always feel, well, okay, when I start drawing regularly, then I usually start writing. But if I feel pressured to write, I have a lot of trouble with it. And I don't think that used to really bother me, and now I think, well, of course I do. I mean, and especially if I feel like I'll feel like, well, people are waiting for books, so I should only be doing that. And if I can't do that, then everyone's gonna be mad at me if they know that I'm like doing something else. If I'm enjoying my life in any way, they'll be mad. They just want to chain me up to my computer. And so then if I feel like that, guess what? I just kind of check out and don't write anything at all, because that's my brain's way of dealing with it. So it's better to do things like this. And honestly, like, I don't know, I've gotten to a point in my life where I'm like, I don't want to just do one thing. I want to do a lot of different things. And I think I also need to be doing more things creatively than just one thing. Like, I mean, I don't think that's too much to ask. But I think saying like, well, this is your thing. You have to just do that. Everybody's waiting. And then, I don't know. I've also, okay, it's not fair to just say, oh, my brain's been like, I'm going to rebel. I'm not going to do it. I've also had a lot of health problems and honestly been in a lot of pain. I'd say over the last few years, but it's been longer than that. It's been, I don't think I've had a pain-free day in 15, 20 years. I don't know. And I know when I say that, that sounds insane. And you're thinking, no, that can't be right. But it is right. Things sneak up on you. And when it happens gradually, it's like slowly adding a rock to a backpack. And each rock's not that bad, so you get used to it. But you add one every day, and pretty soon you're like carrying like this huge pile of rocks. And if you handed that pile of rocks to somebody else, they'd be like, whoa, this is a big pile of rocks. How are you holding this? You can't hold this. And you're like, I don't know. It's just what I do every day. But yeah, I have autoimmune problems. And I've known that I had an autoimmune thyroid problem for a long time. But it turns out I also have autoimmune gastritis, which is stomach inflammation. It's when your body, like, well, I guess it attacks the stomach lining and then turns it into like some other kind of cells that are supposed to just be in your guts, not in your stomach. I don't know super lots about it. Now, the doctors say that that's not where my pain comes from, even though they looked in my stomach and then they said, oh, this is where it's been hurting you, and it's visibly inflamed. Let's test you for this thing. And they did, and then they said, oh, you have autoimmune gastritis. But they said, but it's not painful. That's not where your pain's coming from. And I'm like, really? But I have a different doctor now, and even though she thinks that, maybe that doesn't quite make sense, she's also like, but bodies don't always make sense, and has been listening to me, and we've been treating it like it is gastritis, even though it couldn't possibly be, and guess what? It's getting a lot better. So, I won't say I actually know what it is, because, maybe it's just something, maybe it's not any of those things. Maybe it's something else, and it's just responding to that. But, I'm getting better. I still have pain every day, but it's much more manageable. A year ago, I could not have been doing this. See, and the problem is also, not to just get into all my medical problems, but whatever. It might help somebody else, and maybe it's interesting. I feel like now that I brought it up, I can't just be like, well, I'm not going to talk about it. I'd have problems where, so the pain is on my right side. And when I move my right arm, sometimes that's a problem. And, because just like any sort of jostling at all will cause pain. And so I had a long trouble typing, which is kind of important for writing. And you might say, oh, you could write by hand. Well, guess what? That's my right arm. That's even worse. So typing was a problem where I would try and write, and then as I'm typing, it's causing more pain. And the pain makes it hard to think, which, makes it harder to write, which also stresses me out and then makes the pain worse. And, it's just a really bad cycle. So, I couldn't even really, like, post anything, like, on Facebook. It was, typing was that bad. Like, our internet was terrible up until a little under a year ago. We just had the worst internet. Like, two people couldn't be looking at a website at the same time. Leave me a comment if that's also your life. I feel for you. It sucks. The pain and the internet thing. I was talking about the internet thing in particular there, but you know what? The pain thing also really sucks. More than the internet thing. But I'm just saying, like, the internet thing, I don't know. well, you know what? It is a similar thing to health because it is this thing that you see everybody else having and it's easy and they just get to have it and you used to have it, but now you just don't. And now, there's just all these ridiculous restrictions. So yeah, having health problems feels an awful lot like having just the worst internet. And it's very isolating. Also like having terrible internet. Because you just, like Facebook in particular doesn't really load or wouldn't load when we had bad internet. So that was a problem. But anyway, all of that to say, I've had trouble with writing because of this. And pain is really bad. Pain and stress feeding each other in an infinite loop. That is especially bad for creativity. When I did Inktober, that was years ago. Actually, I think it was like 6 years ago. I was trying to do Inktober, and I was doing it digitally. I made it about 2 weeks because I was using my right arm so much that the pain was just like so bad. I had to stop. And that's hard because I was really enjoying it. But, I've come a long way since then. And now I am able to paint every day. And I do find that painting every day helps with other types of, creativity, like writing. And it just kind of, I don't know, gets my brain going in the right directions. In creative directions, I guess. And yeah, I mean, if you don't know, I write as Chelsea M. Campbell, which is my name. You can look me up if you want. I don't know. It's not a secret, and I'm not like keeping it a secret, but I also just feel like I want this channel to be something else that's not just related to that, but because of expectations. I don't want everybody to have these expectations of like, well, you better be doing this creative thing that I want you to do. If you ever have more than one series, you're going to have people who, no matter what book you write, they wish you'd written one in their series, not the other one that everybody likes. I currently have, let me think, three YA novel series that I've written, or, that are like open and I guess ongoing, unfinished, let's say. I have a graphic novel series for early readers, but that one is done. It's 2 books, so it's a series, but like, calm down, it's not like a long series. And I also have actually a picture book series. It's not out yet, but there are 2 books in that one so far. And the first one is called When You Go to Dragon School. It's super cute. And it comes out next June 2025. If you're watching this in the future, it might already be out. Who knows? But yeah, primarily I'm a writer. And if you can't tell from how much storytelling leaks into my drawings. But yeah, I need more creative outlets than just one. And certainly not having like so much pressure on one, because then if you're like, well, I don't feel like doing that, and then you just, it's easy to put too much pressure on one thing. And there's so many people who just write so fast now. I used to be a fast writer. That's another thing that's tough about it, is because I used to be faster. I used to be able to like just, now I'll get stuck in a book and I'll be stuck for like a year or two. And I never used to have that happen. It'd be like a day or two at most, and I would be like working really hard during that time, like fixing it, figuring it out. But I don't know, health things just make that difficult, and then I don't know. Then you end up with like some bad experiences and baggage over it that then makes it even harder, and So I guess if you are also struggling with health problems and creative problems, and they are, you know, the same problem essentially. Be nice to yourself about it, because I wish I'd been nicer to myself about it. And that's tough because you feel like, but this is who I am, and if I can't do this, then who am I? And also maybe you need to do it because of financial reasons, or just, you know, people are waiting for things, or also like, well, but if your life is just, I feel cruddy all the time, then there comes a point where you feel like, oh, I can't just like completely sit out of everything. Like if I'm never going to feel better, which is a possibility, then, you know, when do you just do it anyway? But I really regret doing it anyway during those times. And I mean, I did need to financially, and I'm not sure what I would have done if I hadn't. But, you know, I don't know. Some good books came out of that, and some of the books were not as good as they could have been. But either way, I personally just feel like I put myself through too much, and it caused too much pain, and now I have so much pain associated with this thing that I theoretically love that makes it really difficult. So don't do that to yourself if you can. And you might be thinking that wouldn't happen, or, you know, but give it long enough, and it's a real possibility, and it sucks. So protect the things that you love doing, and protect yourself, obviously. Protect yourself from yourself. I think this picture is done. I would like to get a bit more depth in there, but I'm not really sure how to go about it. I don't like that blue. It's too blue. It's too much. It's not what I've got going on here. I'm gonna add some of this stormy blue to it. See if we can make like a darker blue. It's pretty dark. Do I dare just put that on the paper? I'm gonna put some on this. Yeah, okay. I think this could work. It's not too bad. It's not too dark. It's not crazy. You know, it's still part of this like overall color vibe that's going on. And I'm not really sure what I want to accomplish with this. I want to darken up the water. I don't really think the water is like the problem. I mean, there's not really a problem. What I really want is for this wall to just have more. But also maybe it doesn't need more. Maybe it just needs like a little bit more. But overall, I think there's some good depth here to the water, and I think, you know, things lead your eye over to here, and you're like, whoa, it's that magic place. Now, I have this, I'm using this Mother Violet, which I do really like, but maybe I'll mix it with the blue. Now I have an awful lot of this. It's going to be on my palette for a while, but here we go. I like that. I think that looks good. And I think, well, okay, just having like a sea of like stagnant water in this dungeon would make these walls so nasty. You couldn't really, I mean, the way I've done them here, they look just like walls that have just been painted purple. You couldn't have that kind of wall in here. I mean, it would just be so gross. But I'm doing some kind of like scratchiness here to try and, I guess, mimic some of the like damage that would be done with the water. I don't know if that's really how it would go. And I mean, it depends on how long this dungeon has been here, because this would probably just not exist. It would be crumbled. But we'll see. They recently renovated it, and, you know, it's fairly new, but it's still damaged from all this water. And then does this open outside, or is this like another part of the dungeon? I was thinking it was another part of the dungeon, but then also I painted a sky in there. So maybe that goes outside to a magical remote land that you get to by remote. Putting in some shadows on these paintings. And I'm going to add a little bit more shadow to the remote now that it's dry. Or dry enough at least. I think it's dry. How would this be? Just gonna kind of just add some and see how that goes. I don't think it has to be like super accurate. I'm not super accurate with my shadows. I just like to get to do them. What I have learned is that you probably need more shadows than you think, and less highlights. Or at least less than I think. Or more shadows than I think, and less highlights than I think. You may or may not be the same. But that's okay, because you know what? I love putting in shadows. I think this looks really good here. And I'm going to try and darken this shadow a little bit. You know, when I would watch, like, Bob Ross as a kid, there was always, like, I don't know, he gets to a certain point and you're like, oh, yeah, that painting's done. But you're like, we're only, like, 10 minutes into the video. And then he just puts in so much more detail. And by the end, you're just like, whoa, yeah, that painting was not done. Why did I think it was done? So, but, you know, when you're on your own painting like this, you have to be the one to decide, is it done? And I mean, I'm not adding more drawing to it, you know, like that part is done. But it's still up to me to decide, like, when the painting part is done. And you don't want to overdo it. Because if you go too far and you just keep adding stuff to it, then you might, you know, you want to stop while you're ahead. You don't want to go too far and mess it up. I would like to add a little bit more color variation to those trees. So I'm going to add some green, some darker green, and just kind of, I don't know what it's called. I mean, it's shading, but it's also just kind of like interest, or like, you know, just giving them some variation. And I think that's enough. That's enough variation for them. We don't want them to steal the focus too much. We want the focus to be on this remote. So we look at the remote, and then we look over here, and we're like, whoa. So this is remote. This is probably not... Well, you know what? It doesn't matter what anybody had in mind, because that's not the point. So there's today's. And thank you so much for watching. Leave me a comment about if you had a remote control like this that could just open the wall and go anywhere, where would that be? Like and subscribe. I will see you next time on the Cluttered Corner.